Wayfair's Labor Day clearance is on now. Right now at Wayfair, you can get up to 70% off everything home. Shop Wayfair's Labor Day clearance now through September 7th at wayfair.ca.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
What the city is talking about.
The news that impacts you.
Welcome to the Montreal Now podcast
with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
Welcome to another edition of The Week That Was here on the iHeartRadio Network. I'm Aaron Rand along with Natasha Hall, and this week we'll take a look at these stories. The latest polling numbers from Nanos research show support for the Liberals from younger Canadian voters is slipping. Seriously, to the point where the Liberals now find themselves behind both the Conservatives and the NDP. We'll talk to Nick Nanos.
Jean Morrison has become one of our all-time favorite guests, and she turned 101 years young this week. She became a viral sensation as the dancing granny rocking out to the Super Bowl halftime show. Let's just say Snoop Dogg is a fan of hers, and we think you will be too.
And you'll meet a woman who, along with her family, traveled to 26 countries around the world. And at the end of it all, she discovered what so many of us already probably knew. There's no place like home.
But we begin with this, a truly astonishing story. A woman from London, Ontario, ended up in a coma after complications from routine surgery. She woke up from that coma and walked down the aisle at her own wedding just 4 days later. And in that time, she had to relearn how to walk. But let her tell you her story. Again, it's astonishing. Get a load of this. She woke from a coma and walked down the aisle at her own wedding just 4 days later. This
What
story
movie is this?
I know, it's unbelievable. It's one of those stories that you have to hear to believe. It happened to Sarah KIMPENSKA, and she joins us now. Thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
When did you get married?
June 3rd.
June 3rd,
yeah, it was
okay.
a great day.
So you've had a bit of time to take all of this in, because I'm sure it was a total and complete whirlwind. Take us back to, you were having sort of some normal surgery and then some complications occurred. Tell us what happened.
Yes. So I do have to have surgery every couple of years because I have a autoimmune disease. So it causes what's called granulomas in my airway. And it's basically where your immune system attracts your small blood vessels. It can affect any area of the body, but mine affects my airway and my lungs. So I have to have these routine surgeries. They go very well. You know, they just go in and widen your airway, and I go on my way. But about 2 weeks before my wedding, that's when my surgery was scheduled for, and it just didn't go as planned. There was... I had trouble breathing afterwards, and fortunately my sister is a doctor, so she recommended I go to the ER, and they took care of me there, which was awesome.
And so how does it go from that to then you being in a coma? Obviously, it was a very serious situation.
Yes, I went into the ER, and, you know, the staff at London Health Sciences Centre were on it right away. They took me into the trauma care centre, and I had teams of people around me, thoracics, rheumatology, ear, nose, and throat. They were all trying to figure out what was wrong. So that was really reassuring. And they thought they were just going to monitor me overnight. Maybe my breathing would get better, but it took a turn for the worse. And I had my then fiance with me, now husband. And I suddenly looked at him, and I was mouthing to him, I can't breathe. So, of course, he's shouting to the doctors and the nurses, and they rushed me into emergency surgery. Everything was such a whirlwind. I didn't realize that I was going to be put into a coma, and especially for, you know, how long, which was about a week, and I'm awake, and you know, I've got my family around me, but they're telling me, "Oh no, it's been you've been in a coma."
So you mean you had no idea? So time passes, but you have absolutely no idea. What was it like that moment when you wake up and they're telling you you're supposed to be getting married in a few days, and that my goodness, Sarah.
Yes, I didn't even realize what was going on. I couldn't communicate because I still had the breathing tube down my airway, but my sister and the nurses were trying to get me to write things down, and I think one of the first words I wrote down was wedding, because I'd been planning this wedding for 2 years, and I just wanted to make sure that, you know, it hadn't passed, first of all.
Right.
And it was still going on. Fortunately, I mean, my husband had been he let me do most of the planning because he didn't really, know what I wanted, and I had my vision. But he had jumped in while I was in the coma, and he actually had to use my fingerprint to get into my phone and contact all the vendors and sort everything out there. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was all very much a whirlwind. But and the other thing was I couldn't walk when I woke up. So I had to walk with a walker about 5 or 10 steps. I'd be so weak that my family was looking at each other going, I don't think she'll be able to walk down this aisle.
What made you not cancel the wedding? Like the moment you come to and you realize, you still can't speak at that point. Like you said, you can't walk. What made you not cancel the wedding at that time?
Yeah, the venue itself was great. We had been having multiple conversations with them, and they'd give us a bunch of options for, alternative dates. They had some other locations maybe that would work. And so we'd sort of look at each other and go, we'll call you back in 20 minutes. And we kept doing that over and over again. But really, in the end, I just looked at my husband and just said, you know what, you've been with me this whole time. He barely left the hospital. That's really what you want in a husband or a partner for life. I mean, they say in sickness and in health, but when it comes down to it, you don't know how that person, if they'll actually be there for you. And he was from the get-go. So I just looked at him. I was like, that's it. I just want to marry you. I don't care if I need a walker. I don't care if I can't dance at my own wedding. I just want to be married to you. So we just decided to go forward with it.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. That is so beautiful. Okay, but then the reality is you didn't have to use a walker, did you? You learned how to walk in those few days.
Yeah, that was all credit to, I think, the hospital staff, the nurses, the doctors, the physiotherapists. I mean, I can't say enough about the healthcare staff in Canada. They're just awesome. They really made it their goal as well to get me to my wedding, and so they would walk with me a little bit every day. When I was in the coma, they would wash and braid my hair just so it wouldn't get matted, so I could have my hair up and look good on my wedding day, because they were like, let's get her to this wedding. And also when I left the hospital, my dad and my husband would walk me a little bit every day, and every day they'd be like, okay, a little bit more, and I was so weak. It was just unbelievable. So, it's those little things, it's like, kind of take for granted just the ability to breathe or the ability to walk, but yeah, when you can do it, it's and you realize, oh, okay, this is actually more difficult than it seems. You don't take those things for granted again, for sure. And
you did it. You married the love of your life. Were you able to go on a honeymoon, or how's your recovery been since then, Sarah?
Yeah, so we had our honeymoon booked and ready to go. We were going to do England and Ireland, but because I've had to start a new treatment since all of this happened, we decided to delay it. So that's okay, though. We're really looking forward to it next year. And it just gives us one more thing to look forward to.
I love your attitude.
Yes, we haven't been able to.
So you said you have a new treatment you have to do. How is your health now? And are you nervous? Like, you'll have to do that surgery again, I suppose, at some point. How are you feeling about all that?
Yeah. So this disease, there's no cure for it. You just have to manage it as it comes. And so you kind of got used to that feeling of uncertainty and needing to go for tests and seeing how things are. So I did just start a new round of treatment, which I think went very well. But we'll have to wait and see a couple of months just to see how it took effect. Okay. But I'm very positive about it. I love my healthcare team. I work within both London and Toronto, so they're very positive about it too, and keep a good eye on me. And that's really what you want: a support system in the healthcare system and also at home. So it's working out okay.
I mean, I think your attitude's got to have a huge part to do with that, Sarah. Totally inspirational to hear that. Congratulations once again to you and your husband.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we so appreciate you telling us your story today. That is one for the books. Holy moly. Have you sold the rights for a screenplay yet?
No, not yet. No.
I have one last question. I know we have to go. When you woke up from your coma and all this is sort of sitting right in front of you, did you have an idea what was going on, or was you a bit concerned, how long have I been in a coma?
You know what's funny is my family kept trying to tell me, okay, you're here, you're in the hospital, we're all here, but they kept repeating the same thing to me. So I thought, they told me that I'd been in a coma, so I knew that, but which came as a bit of a shock. But because they kept repeating things, I thought I was stuck in some sort of Christopher Nolan time loop, and I got a little bit panicked. And so once they realized that, they stopped and they reassured me, "You're not in a time loop. You're okay."
Okay, there's a tip if you ever know someone who's in a coma. Sarah, thank you so much. Congratulations to you. It's a wonderful story.
So much.
You bet.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Sarah KIMPENSKA is her name.
From London,
Quite
Ontario.
a story.
Yeah.
Informative,
Interactive,
and always interesting.
This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
The latest polling numbers from Nanos research show support for the Liberals from younger Canadian voters is slipping. Seriously. To the point where the Liberals now find themselves behind both the Conservatives and the NDP. We'll talk to Nick Nanos. We've been talking a whole lot lately, ever since, I guess, the Charlottetown group got together, the caucus, the Liberal caucus there about a week ago, and talk about Justin Trudeau's future as leader of the federal party, starting to intensify. A new poll, a Nanos research poll, provides what I would call more worrying data for this party and for Justin Trudeau, I think, as leader. Nick Nanos, chair of Nanos Research, is on the line. Mr. Nanos, appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Great to join you and all your listeners.
So let's talk about this. Typically, traditionally, 18 to 29s, they belong to the federal Liberal Party and certainly to Justin Trudeau. What are we seeing here? Why? What's changed and how?
Well, if we go back to 2015, it was enthusiasm among many Canadians that were under 35 years of age that were ready for change, like the progressive message, had all that Sunny Ways stuff that they kind of bought into. Fast forward now, and it looks like from the numbers that younger people are drifting away from the Liberals. Many of them are going to the Conservatives, probably because of economic reasons, because they're just trying to pay for the groceries and are very frustrated. And others are drifting to the New Democrats because they're frustrated, probably because the Liberals, although they talk a good talk on a lot of these progressive politics, they might not be moving as fast as some young progressive voters want.
I don't know what's more surprising there, the fact that they're moving away or the fact that they're moving to, of all people, the Conservatives.
Well, I think many are moving to the Conservatives because for young people, they were crushed during the pandemic. They're on the front line. They have more debt than their parents had at their age. They're struggling to pay for groceries. They can't pay for the rent. Housing is unaffordable. Does this sound biblical? It's just bad, and it's a tough situation for many young people. And I think for some of them, they're just looking at the Liberals and can't see things getting any better, and they're willing to try something new because I'm sure they're thinking maybe they don't like Pierre Poilievre perhaps as much as some other politicians, but they have nothing to lose if you can't pay for the rent by opting for someone else.
Yeah, they're just looking for hope, right? They're looking for anything to make them feel better about their current situation. How does this pan out province to province?
Oh, well, the Liberals, it's like bad news for the Liberals almost everywhere, except for Quebec. That's the best province for them right now. And the Prairies. And can I tell you something? Mm-hmm. If the Prairies is one of the better places for the Liberals, it just shows the dire straits that they're in. Because that just means they're not losing the few seats that they do have in the Prairie provinces. But, right now, the Liberals could lose upwards of 15 seats in Ontario. They could lose a number of seats in Atlantic Canada, which is another big Liberal bastion, and British Columbia could be a significant setback with both the Conservatives and the NDP picking up seats at the expense of the Trudeau Liberals.
So this is last week's story, isn't it? I mean, I'm not sure it was your poll or not, suggesting that for the first time, the Conservatives now are actually in potentially majority territory here. Am I right?
That was one of my friendly pollsters. We have the Conservatives winning and in a minority situation.
Okay.
But are they teetering? It's kind of like, hey, you remember the movie Titanic? Maybe this is a bad, you're on the front bow and it's like, hey, the Conservatives are teetering on perhaps a big win, but they're not, in our tracking at least, they're in minority win territory.
I'm also wondering, Nick, if provincial and federal affinities are aligning. Like in BC, we know NDP is more popular provincially. Are we starting to see that on a federal level as well?
I'm not sure as much because, we'll look at Quebec as a case in point. I'm not sure if people would equate Legault with Trudeau, right?
No.
Because they're two very different cats with different kind of visions for, prosperity and stuff like that. So I think what this really boils down to is, one, time for change, catching up with the Liberals, and every government has a best before date, and then the Liberals looking like a tired government. Like, they got to put something new in the window. They've got to explain to Canadians why they deserve another mandate. One of the reasons why Stephen Harper lost wasn't just because, he had been in power for a long time. One of the reasons why he lost is because during the election that he was defeated in, he failed to say what he needed to do for Canadians and what was left to do in a Harper mandate. He just tried to tear down his opponents. I think the Trudeau Liberals have to watch out that they don't do the same thing. Smearing Pierre Poilievre is not enough to win. They've got to explain to Canadians why the Liberals deserve to be left in power.
That's interesting, and yet for Pierre Poilievre, I would say smearing Trudeau and the Liberals might be enough to win.
Yep. How's that?
Yeah.
And the other thing that Pierre Poilievre has to do is to zip it, because whenever he doesn't talk a lot, his numbers go up. So he has to let governments defeat themselves. So what Pierre Poilievre has to do is attack the Liberals, say that it's time for a change, and basically say, the Conservatives are not Liberals, like, we're different. And then to let Canadians make a decision.
It's to me, it seems anyway, it's like the louder you say it, the longer you say it, the more people will believe it. And Pierre Poilievre has been doing it now for quite some time, long before there was even talk of a possible election. And we're not even in an election cycle now. And I'm guessing when I see polls like yours, Nick, that message is starting to get through. As I said, you say it long enough and loud enough, people buy in.
One of the interesting trend lines that we've seen in the last few years is that the proportion of Canadians that are satisfied with Canada as a country has been declining every year for the last 3 years. And the lowest satisfaction score, I think it's like a 5.6 out of 10, is among younger Canadians. That's like kids coming home from school and giving their parents a D for the job that they're doing for creating Canada as a nation. And so right now what Pierre Poilievre is doing is he's tapping into feelings of declinism that are out there, that things need to change and that we're not going in the right direction. And it's a tough one to fight for the Liberals, especially since they've been in power since 2015.
Okay, I have a question again about gender lines here too, Nick, because I think we tend to think women would be more inclined to vote for the Trudeau Liberals. That we're not seeing that anymore.
Well, the enthusiasm isn't there that we've seen before. The winning formula for the Liberals and the Conservatives are mirror images of themselves. For the Liberals, it's to do really well among women and be competitive among men, and then for the Conservatives, it's to do well among men and be competitive among women. And right now, the Liberal advantage among women is not as strong as it has been in the past, and Pierre Poilievre is just becoming a little more competitive, and he's already doing very well among male voters.
So, Nick, just as a final question, with respect to, yes, the Conservatives are doing well, where's the breakdown from what you've seen in terms of individuals? In other words, Pierre Poilievre versus Justin Trudeau. What are we seeing there?
Well, it's pretty clear. The good news for both of them is that they're not competing against perfection, because if they were, neither of them would be elected or selected as Prime Minister. We have a dead heat on the preferred Prime Minister tracking between them, and it speaks to Canadians seeing two imperfect choices.
Isn't
that fascinating, huh? Nick Nanos from Nanos Research. Nick, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.
Informative.
Interactive. And always interesting.
This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
Jean Morrison has become one of our all-time favorite guests, and she turned 101 years young this week. She became a viral sensation as the dancing granny rocking out to the Super Bowl halftime show. Let's just say Snoop Dogg is a fan of hers, and we think you will be too.
This seemed appropriate for our guest's birthday for Jean Morrison, because I'm sure she's up and dancing right now, and I know she loves disco. So, Jean Morrison turns 101 today, and she's on the phone. Hi, Jean.
Hello.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Are you having a great day, Jean?
Yes, it's wonderful. And I think of my grandchild. When they sing happy birthday, they say, and maybe more.
Oh, no, they don't. Do they really?
That's cute.
Oh, that's too funny.
So what are they doing? Anything first of all, where exact? Tell everybody where you are.
Right now, I'm at the Heritage Lodge in Van Cleek Hill.
Van Cleek Hill.
I moved from Winnipeg to here.
Yes.
Right.
And it's very nice, very nice.
And what are they doing for you today special for your birthday?
Well, not too special today, but it's going to be celebrated on Wednesday when most of my family can get here.
Oh, okay.
As you know, a large family, and they're from all over Canada. It's very hard to correlate everybody.
Right, and I remember it was your grandson in Winnipeg, right? Because when you went viral, you had been dancing to the Super Bowl halftime show, and I remember even Snoop Dogg gave you a shout-out online. Is that grandson from Winnipeg going to be able to attend your birthday party?
No, he won't be able to come. But every time I think of Snoop Dogg, I think, I've lived this long, and now I'm a big-ass bitch. It's not very encouraging.
Oh, my.
I think it's very encouraging,
Wow.
in fact.
But won't look good on my tombstone.
Oh, it'll look great on your tombstone, Jean. Do you think what you would like to have on your tombstone one day, or do you not think that way?
I don't think that way. I think you should celebrate life, not death.
Well, good for you. Certainly are celebrating life. You sound like you're always having so much fun.
And I was listening to your program, and you were talking about the fashion mishaps. And I have a fashion mishap I'd like to share with you.
Please.
You know, I love to swim. I still swim. And every year I've got this decision, will I buy a new bathing suit or not? Because, you know, they're so expensive. And how many times am I going to use it? I finally broke down and went and got a new one.
Oh.
And then I went to the lake to swim. And when I got undressed and went down to the lake, when I got there, my daughter said, "You've got your bathing suit on inside out." And you know, at my age, it has to have the upper and the lower supports built in. Yeah. So I really looked terrible, but there's no way I could go back and get undressed again. So we walked down to the wharf, and with the ladder coming up over the wharf, I could get in easily. And my daughter was in the water, and the other lady was on the wharf. And now I'm going down, and one step at a time, and I'm saying, "Okay, move, okay, another inch," and just then a boat went by, and somebody in the boat said, "For heaven's sake, throw her in."
Oh,
no! And my friend said, "She's 100 years old." Oh, they said, "For God's sake, pull her out."
Don't throw her in, pull her out.
Jean, did it happen? Did your bathing suit happen to be an itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini?
You can. I mean, that's such an exaggeration.
Oh,
I don't know how to answer it.
I honestly thought you were going to tell us that you went skinny dipping, because that wouldn't surprise me.
But that would surprise the rest of the people. Yes. I say I look a little bit like that Chinese dog, you know, with all the wrinkles.
The Shar-Pei, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Jean, you look great. You look great, and you've got such a great approach to life. And are you still dancing? Are you doing lots of dancing along with the swimming?
Well, that's the beauty of being in the water. You can do things you can't do on land. Your body's so subtle, and I just love to swim.
That's nice.
And are you still doing comedy? I know you were doing some stand-up.
Well, maybe I'm trying to do comedy now, so I'm not sure. I'm still doing comedy.
Yes, you are. You're definitely
Do they have
doing
talent
comedy.
shows where you are?
No, but
they should.
Something funny happened because we have a program in the beginning of the month that tells you what's on all the time, and there is a birthday party for me here, and it said there's going to be a stand-up comic, and I was so excited to see a stand-up comic come. Then I find out it's me. And of course I know all the stories.
That's wonderful.
You don't get to be entertained, you are the entertainment.
I know, but I also was thinking about Ted Blackman. And I mean, what's wonderful about getting older when you still have a memory, because you think of all the delightful things that happened. And I think of Ted Blackman because he used to have that title song, "The Teddy Bear's Picnic."
Sure,
Do you remember that?
Of course.
Yes, and I knew that. Even when I was pregnant, I'd be listening to it. And then when my children were born, we all sang the Teddy Bear's Picnic. You know the words, do you? You go down the woods today, you're in for a big surprise. You remember that?
Yeah, please remind us, Jean.
If you,
Please remind us. Keep going.
Oh, if you go down the woods today, you're in for a big surprise. For everywhere teddy bear. Oh my gosh, I know it so well. Well, if you go down in the woods today, you're in for a big surprise. If you're down in the woods today.
I don't remember it. I'm trying to think if I can help you out.
Obviously, I don't either. But anyway.
You get a pass. You get a pass.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You get a car. And Gene, listen.
Everywhere,
yes.
The bears come for today's the day. The teddy bears have their picnic.
There you go.
Yes.
That sort of thing. Anyway, our whole family's involved in teddy bears. And I got a call. We had a farm, and we had about 20 acres of virgin wood. And so my son from Montreal phoned and said he and his wife and their daughter, who was 3 years old, were coming out. And for me to, when we see the little daughter, entertain her, because they've got all her teddy bears. And they're taking them down to the woods and setting up a whole picnic for the little girl.
Gene, you sound like you're already having an amazing day. We got to go because we have news coming up. I want to thank you so much for being with us again today. Wish you nothing but the best and have a great night. I hope they have a birthday cake for you today.
Well, certainly Wednesday.
Certainly on Wednesday. Well, happy birthday. Hope somebody gives you a cake and a teddy bear. It's always a pleasure, Gene. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Gene.
Bye-bye.
Happy birthday.
Now. There you go. 101.
She is so
101.
delightful.
It's amazing.
Informative.
Interactive.
And always interesting.
This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
You'll meet a woman who, along with her family, traveled to 26 countries around the world. And at the end of it all, she discovered what so many of us already probably knew. There's no place like home. So this next story, I think this came to us via email as well from someone who has, and I wanted to do this because we hear too often about people slagging Canada, right? It's not the country it was, it's not as good, and on and on. Not everybody, but we've heard enough of people doing that.
Certainly these days.
Yeah, and the story from this particular, you're going to meet him her in just a second, is that they have traveled to 26 countries around the world.
That's cool.
And the message is, you know what? Canada's still the best place anywhere. I love that message. So let's find out more. Alana Best is an author and world traveler. She's from BC, and she's on the line right now. Alana, thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I want to know what compelled you to, at the end of all this travel, simply look back and go, you know what? The country we live in, still a pretty amazing place.
I have lived across Canada. So my husband lived in Montreal for 8 years. I lived in Saint-Anne-des-Monts, just north of Gaspé for a little while. I've lived in Toronto, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, Victoria. So we have a very good idea of the beauty and wonderful aspects and diversity that is Canada. And I also know what it's like to fall in love with a place and move. So I thought perhaps we would travel the world, see these wonderful different places and want to move. And in the end, that just wasn't the case. There's so much that Canada has to offer. And of course, as you say, there's, things and room for improvement always in every society, but we truly are very fortunate.
I want to ask you about what motivated you to do this trip and visit the 26 countries, but I feel like first I need to know, in all of your travels, if Canada was, home sweet home, what was the runner-up of all the places you visited? Was there a place where you're like, that would be my second choice?
Yeah, I think Tuscany came pretty close.
Okay.
I think it's just a lifestyle. I think rural in sort of some of the areas in Italy as well as France, they have this way of just living life to such a beautiful extent. So going for picnics, enjoying really good wine, lovely food, beautiful cultures, rich history. And it just seemed like such an easy, lovely way to enjoy every small beauty of life.
But, to your point earlier, the idea of I'm going to look around, we're going to travel around, I'm sure we'll be able to find a place that's great. And then at the end of it all, be able to say, you know what, we've been to all these places and been to all these countries. And I think I'm not sure that these words you would have used, but the idea that, you know what, after all this, Canada is still the best place. And I just wondered, did that happen to you midway through this? Or did you, when you were done this traveling, you just sat back and thought, you know what, after all these places we've been to, this is what I need to say?
Yeah, it was towards the end of the trip where it really solidified for me. I think I was always in the lookout for it, thinking about it as we were traveling around. And in the end, I ended up getting a tattoo to sort of symbolize home, because that's where I felt the most rooted and wanted to be. And the year really came back to me and said, I want to be in Canada. I will always adventure. I will always explore. I will always travel. There is no perfect place in the world, but this is the best place for me and my family and to raise my children.
What's the tattoo?
So it's a beautiful oak tree on my back.
Ooh, lovely.
Oh.
Okay, so the book is called Around the World in Black and White, Traveling as a Biracial Blended Family. What made you want to do this trip to 26 different countries?
I feel I'm quite a spirited, courageous, fun, adventurous person. So is my husband. We worked for the public service at the time that had an offering that you could put a percentage of your salary away and take some time off. So we did that for 4 years. We also wanted to grow our family. We had a child. So we took our, at the time, 5-week-old baby with us, used our wonderful Canadian maternity and parental leave as part of that ability to travel. And we took off with our baby and our 10-year-old at the time. And really, it's multiple fold. Like, we only have one life. Live it to the fullest extent as humanly possible. It is such a gift to yourselves and your family to bond and to be together in that period of, for that period of time. It's a gift to your children. I think it's so important to, root them, but also give them wings and let them know that the world is their oyster. And traveling is probably the most wonderful thing I can think of to do, to experience all that this world has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So Natasha asked you about, number 2, you said Tuscany, France. I get that if you've ever been. I mean, it's gorgeous country.
For sure.
But were there any disappointments along the way, places you thought would be really, really something special and turned out not to be what you would thought?
And can I add to that, how did traveling as a biracial family factor in?
Yeah, so that has been the real opener and the difference. So I had, for example, traveled to Asia on my own previously with some of my siblings. I'm white. My partner is black. And going there as a white person is very different than going there as a black person. That we encountered a lot of racism, a lot of incidents happened. And incidences happened all over and have also happened in our own backyard. So I want to be clear, I'm not pointing fingers specifically. But it does narrow or change, the way you travel, because the way the world sees us is very different. And the way that we are treated along those travels is different. And so therefore, also, if we are thinking about living somewhere, the factor and the lenses that you need to put onto that are different. So I think for me, it was a real exposure and awakening to white privilege in a way that you rarely get unless you spend 24 hours a day for an entire year traveling with a person of color. And just the fact that we live our lives and walk through this world in a very different ways.
Okay, so that handles the biracial part of this. I want to go back to what I had asked about places you went that you were disappointed that you expected to find one way and not another. No, I'm not talking about the biracial element. I mean, in terms of beauty or places that you thought, oh my God, I've seen pictures of this place, but it's not like what I thought it was. Did you run into that at all? Did you encounter that?
Yes, we definitely encountered that. I would say, with Asia, definitely, I didn't expect the amount of, overt racism that was experienced by my husband. I would say Egypt was an incredible place to visit for the monuments and everything that was there. But I was also taken aback by, the misogyny and some of the things that were experienced there. And I was also surprised when we would go to other places where I assumed that we would not experience anything, such as, France. And then, we'd have security guards trailing us, for example. So I think that we had many things where we thought, surely it wouldn't happen in Victoria or in France or in some of these other places, and it still did. So some of those surprised me.
I was going to ask you what the most beautiful place you visited was. Is there one particular place that stands out?
Well, Canada.
Other than Canada?
South Africa and Kenya, I would have to say, are up there with some of my most beautiful landscapes. You can't beat the wildlife there. Cape Town, South Africa, is a coastal town, very kind of similar West Coast type feel to Victoria, is absolutely stunning.
Okay. Quite the time. I wonder, too, what your kids at the end of all this thought.
this is always the worry, right? You bring a 10-year-old on a great adventure and you pray that they absorb some of it. And I think that she did, and she still is able to speak to, when she's learning in class about World War II, she has been to Poland, she's seen Auschwitz. So some of those things really resonated and stuck with her. I also think a teenage girl, now that she is, doesn't just view the world and, all of the drama that is high school, and the world is a bigger place.
Isn't that interesting?
Cool. And now that we have this book as a bit of a legacy, I'm also hoping that they will go back to some of the places they got to experience at a young age.
Again, the book is called Around the World in Black and White, Traveling with a Biracial Blended Family. You can find it on Amazon. Any future travels planned?
Always. We're planning on going to Monaco in October to celebrate a friend's 50th birthday.
Good for you. Boy, are you lucky. Listen, thank you so much. Great story, too. And maybe for people who do want to read up, they can check out the book. Alana Best. Alana, thanks so much for your time today.
I appreciate you.
That wraps up another edition of The Week That Was here on the iHeartRadio Network. I'm Aaron Rand, along with Natasha Hall, and we will see you next week.
Have a great week.
This has been the Montreal Now podcast with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
Listen live on your radio, weekday afternoons from 2 to 6.
On CJAD 800.
Or through the iHeartRadio app.